Well, hello everyone. And today on Bullish on Business, we have quite a guest. I am your host, Rose Odette, and we are super excited because we are going to dive deep into a conversation that hits the heart of what real success looks like, where health, wealth, and a purpose intersect. My guest, Nancy Griffin, is a powerhouse in the world of legacy advising and the woman's empowerment. How you doing today, Nancy?
Terrific, Rose. Delighted to be here.
Awesome. Well, Nancy is the president and founder of Woman, Worth, and Wellness, a movement she launched back in 1994, really way ahead of most of our getting it, the whole women in business. She's a real front runner there. And she really does this to help accomplished women and their daughters align their own health, wealth, and net worth and self-worth. She is a certified financial planner and an elder planning counselor, a Canada 125 award recipient for outstanding community leadership, and one of the first female managers at Procter & Gamble. So she's been breaking ceilings and building legacies long before it was fashionable. For more than 3 decades, Nancy has been guiding women to steward their wealth and purpose, combining philanthropy, financial strategy, and self-leadership into one integrated philosophy. Her trademark brand, Women, Worth, and Wellness, inspires women to lead with generosity, integrity, and confidence, and to see giving not as a loss, but as legacy. We're going to unpack how she helps women build both a net worth and self-worth, the story behind her incredible 700 jars of jam journey, and what she calls the woman's age of integrity, a time where authenticity, leadership, and contribution truly come together. So you guys buckle up, because the conversation isn't just about money. It's about meaning, momentum, and the mindset that keeps you charging forward. Again, Nancy, welcome to Bullish on Business.
Thank you so much, Rose. And I'm telling you, your listeners must be on the ceiling all the time because you inspire them to the max, to the
Oh,
max.
well, we need each other. It's a totally an environment where we need to lean on each other and grow from each other. And that's why I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you
So
so much.
really cool. So let's talk about you as from your origin. I love this. What inspired you back in those days to create Women, Worth, and Wellness? And what gap did you see in women's financial and philanthropic conversations back at that time?
Well, once I got into Wealth Advisor, it was kind of my third tranche because my first was at Procter & Gamble. Then I left and ran politically and then was recruited into the whole wealth management industry, which was terrific. Once I got there, I was sorry I hadn't been there 20 years earlier because it is such a powerful role to really help people build a fabulous future. And so once I got there, it was terrific. And of course, you work with a great company. They've got a training program that's second to none. But they say, Nancy, we don't have any clients for you. You've got to go find your own clients. So it's okay. They said, the people you will work with are people to whom you can add value for their future. So at that moment in time, I thought, I'm going to focus on women, not exclusively, but primarily. And of course, I did one of the investment groups I was working with, they had a whole marketing program on exactly that. So I curated it. I think over 170 women showed up, 172. It was a Saturday morning at a golf club. And this was 19, that would be 19, no, I think that was 1994 or 90, no, maybe it was 92, 93, whatever.
Well, that's a
Anyway,
lot of
of
people.
course,
That means there was some pent up.
there was. There was,
questions
definitely.
or angst or what, where do we go from here?
Exactly. It
You
was in
really
a
touched
wonder,
it.
yep, a really fabulous neighborhood. It was at a beautiful golf course. And I always found that the best time to get women is a Saturday morning, that first Saturday in November,
Hmm.
because a lot of stuff has gone behind them, summer and Halloween and back to school, but it's not yet Christmas. And of course, women love to go in packs wherever. So if one person gets the invite, then of course three more will come. So of course I've got this whole prospect group. It was just an abundance of riches. So you start working with women and you find that they can't get to their wealth plan because they're the nurse practitioner in their home looking after the family's health
Oh,
and wellness. And that's when I thought, how much do these women really know about health? I mean, I don't know about health. I go to experts. So that's when I started to partner with not-for-profit health-related organizations focusing on women's health. For example, in Toronto, where I was at the time, there's a hospital called Women's College Hospital, over 100 years old, all about women's health and wellness. So
hmm.
I started to do events with them, direct my clients there, charge my clients a nominal amount, like $25 or $50, because then you can show them how that deduction from their tax return is enhancing their net worth. But then, of course, we know that if you're giving, more often than not, the recipient of that gift is the person who's given
Yeah.
because you enhance your own self-worth. So, we just kept building from there. And actually, the 90s, you'll probably remember this. This was also when women were learning how to golf. It's like, we need to get out there. And so I started their first golf tournament. And
Oh,
1994, I had 95, I had 32. And then 97, 2 years later, I had 144 because women, it's like, yes, yes, we want more of this. So, I just caught the curve at the right time. And I just offered a lot of the things that women were looking for.
oh, fantastic. Wow. And I want to touch back on that whole Procter and Gamble angle that, your early career at Procter and Gamble and later you run for federal politics. Wow, those pivots are fascinating. What about those past experiences shaped what you're doing today?
Well, I was one of the first female managers, which was a big deal. And I was promoted from non-management into management, and that was a really big deal. But this one, my supervisor, he saw that when the new recruits came in, I was doing the training. So he was the person who was a champion and said, if she's doing the training, why doesn't she have the job? And of course, we know that men are the ones that were the enablers to give us that leg up to get to wherever. So, of course, but there I have my career. I had 5 years in finance and then I went into HR. But then my whole career just stalled. It just stalled. And I had a VP who wouldn't let me go on business travel because I had a child at home. I also found out later on that I'd been recruited for international assignments, but I wasn't being offered them. He was declining because it's like she's got a family. So during my 30s, sort of mid 30s, I'm kind of looking at, okay, what am I doing here? And every time I wanted to be an entrepreneur and leave, the VP would talk me out of it and give me more money or some. And finally, I'm turning 39. And remember, being 39 is like being 82. I thought, I am out of here. And that's exactly when this whole political opportunity came up. So I left and ran politically. They thought I had really lost my mind. But I had just gone on to our community services board and they put me in charge of community outreach. So that seems like no big deal. Well, sure enough, don't we have one awful, awful incident where there was a murder of this woman who had been the buyer at the shop where I bought all my clothes. Remember the little ties that we used to wear? And of course, I'm in charge of, so you're the spokesperson. Anyway, what I learned at Procter and Gamble is when tragedies like that happen, no one person is at fault. And of course, we had all these different levels of government, so that was the approach that I took. And so, of course, it was like, okay, this is a tragedy, but we're going to learn from it and we're going to build a better community as a result of it. So that's what I worked on. And that's then how I got involved politically.
Wow, what a story. I'm sure we could peel that onion back and have our own, murder podcast if we wanted to. That sounds
Exactly.
amazing. Oh, I don't believe
But
it, but I have to. I can't believe it. Oh man.
it was amazing. And then again, that's exactly why I was given that 125 award, because it was community leadership in a federal riding. And I was so surprised when this, invite came in the mail. It's like, oh my goodness, what is this? Anyway, you open up and think, oh, this is incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
incredible. Out of the blue.
A lot of our guests are from the States. Tell us what the 125 award is for outstanding community leadership.
It
Tell us.
was Canada's 125th anniversary.
Oh,
And so all these federal ridings all across Canada, they, excuse me, they were to identify community leaders to give them this award.
oh man.
And so
That's a huge. Oh my gosh. So what year was that?
1992,
Oh, that's amazing.
1992. I mean, it was amazing because I'd always been campaigning and involved with the Liberal Party. And this came in the mail from the Conservative MP at the time.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, I won't open this. But then I thought, no, I'll open it to see what their marketing approach is. And there is this.
And it's a
So I
recognition.
know. So for her to have gone out of her way to give it to me, it's like, well, good for her.
Yes, that's so good. Well, you must have made a massive impact. You even crossed the aisle. Good for you. That's not for the faint of heart. You must have really struck a chord. So, when did you first realize that legacy advising wasn't just about money and it was about meaning?
Well, early on, as I mentioned, we would do these events with charitable giving. And that's when you start to introduce the whole concept of giving back and
Mm,
give back wherever you want to, like whatever your passion is. But
mm,
when we place such a big emphasis on health, I mean, certainly that's a great starting point with some of your funds. In Canada, in the US as well, we have the United Way. That's a great way to give a gift that goes in many different directions. But I think the whole point was that your life is all about a whole lot more than just you. I mean, you are a catalyst for so much more. And with wealth advisory, there's so many conversations that you get into with your clients. And certainly you're not going to talk them into things they don't want. But at the same time, there may be things they're not familiar with that may enhance their overall sense of wellness and well-being. And of course, charitable donations, now philanthropy, it enhances your net worth.
it certainly does. And I think that women and women leaders, especially, get it. They get that because it's our nature to be nurturing and to be able to use our wealth to be more nurturing. When I first met you, Nancy, you mentioned Melinda Gates and
Yes,
also mentioned the other one.
Mackenzie,
Yes, Mackenzie. What's her last name?
Scott.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. But I thought that was really poignant to me because, when they first experienced their divorce and they declared they were going to do more with their take than, just, stick it in the bank or invest it, they were going to use it for good. We haven't heard much about it since that. I'd love for you to give us your perspective on what they've been doing with their philanthropy.
Well, I think I've paid attention to them. And for anybody who's interested in women's philanthropy, there's the Women's Philanthropic Institute in Pennsylvania. And if you sign on to them on LinkedIn, you'll see all the different seminars that they offer. But I think the two are quite different. Melinda is quite public in terms of what she is doing. So role model to the max. For example, she's just designated 100 million for research into women's health. The other thing that she's done, which is most impressive, and I don't know what the number is, but you know that young males are starting to feel displaced and out of place. She's also designated some dollars for that whole initiative. But
Awesome.
Mackenzie Scott she just keeps giving out money. Apparently, she's just given 80 million to the Howard University, I think in
Oh,
New York. Yeah, 80 million. So
wow.
so so she doesn't want any accolades.
Mhm.
And half the time, she doesn't even want people to know who she's given it to, but she just keeps peeling it off. And you know how well the markets have done. I think it grows up faster than she can give it away.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the two of them really, really, really are intent on making a difference with their
Well,
money.
thank you for giving us an update on what they're doing. And also, if you don't mind, if you would send me that link so I
I
can
will.
put it in our show notes. So
I
if
will.
people who are watching this want to do a deeper dive into that organization, they'll be able to do that by finding that link in our show notes. So you've worked across industries from corporate leadership, wealth management, community boards. Looking back, what through line connects them all for you?
I think being with like-minded people. I think that's the real key to success is you've got to be in a sweet spot with other people. And as you get into new situations with potentially new organizations, you kind of have to proceed with caution because it's so much easier to get into things than it is to get out of them, especially from a relationship standpoint. And I'll give you an example. I'm a Rotarian. I was a Rotarian in Toronto, but in between, I lived in another community. And there are three different clubs there. Not one of those clubs was I interested in considering membership because the people were just not, you just felt that they weren't a group that you wanted to be part of. So
Oh,
I think all the way along, Procter and Gamble was great. I still have good friends from there. Obviously, all the community involvement, you still have people you keep in touch with, friends over the years. I think it's just so important to be with like-minded people.
mhm. That's so true. I couldn't agree with you more.
Mhm.
And you have to follow your gut.
Right,
You have to follow where if you don't get that vibe, if you will. And us as women, we and men have the intuition, but we need to listen to it. And if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. And it sounds
right.
like you agree with that. Um, and as you get in more rural, I think you're in a more of a smaller town now. Is
I
that
am. I am. The community that I live in is like going to the Hamptons out of New York. So
yes?
it's between Toronto and Montreal, but really sort of high end, but also very close to those major centers. That's one of the reasons why it's so popular.
And do you have access to like-minded people now?
Yes,
Oh, you're
definitely.
lucky. That's so
They're just little gems that keep popping up all over the place. And really, really, really impressive people and impressive women over 80. I mean, just trailblazers. So very inspiring.
well, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you that you have that. So let's look out into the vision and the impact. Your philosophy of giving more than you take seems central to your work. How does that principle show up in your business and your life today? So take us into your business today.
Um, well, I'm more than happy to anybody help anybody else with their business. For example, I'm on a panel in a couple of weeks with this woman who is celebrating her 15th anniversary. And so she asked me if I'd be on a panel. Happy to be on her panel and happy to promote the event to really help her. And she and I first met in 1997 when we were on a business trade mission to the UK. And so I'm going to tell, as part of my panel presentation, these women will only have known her from the last, 10 or 15 years, who she was then and how amazing she was then and how amazing she is now. Like she
Oh, that
really
sounds
is.
like so fulfilling.
Hmm.
Going full circle. That's amazing. You focus on helping boomer women and their daughters steward health and purpose. What kind of ripple effects are you hoping to see as you create this cross-generational um, project? I know that, I'm a boomer and I have a daughter who is probably I think we're probably your perfect like guinea pigs. What is it that you focus on to do that? And what kind of ripple effect are you hoping you'll create?
I just want exactly that, to give more than you take. To be alive and to be healthy is a privilege. So don't keep all that privilege to yourself. Do something, do something. And you want those daughters and then their granddaughters to do the very same thing, so that you're bringing up young people to think about the world beyond just themselves. I mean, obviously you want them to do well and to do as well as they possibly can. But as a result of doing well, seriously, don't keep it all for yourself. Really don't.
I agree with you. You know, the one thing that's coming up next week is Veterans Day, and on Tuesday is Veterans Day in the US. And what we do, and it's my daughter's name is Caitlin, and she has Koshiba Law. She married a Japanese man, therefore the Koshiba last name, and the Koshiba Law is her small firm. And what we are doing, we're going over to the local AMVETS
Wonderful.
and we're going to do a free simple will workshop.
Wonderful.
And so that's all her. You know, we're going to pack up our computer and our printer and our notary stamps, and we're
Wonderful.
going to just hunker down for the afternoon and really pump out some documents that, you know, it's not easy for some people to really
No,
go through that whole will. It's kind of facing your, you know, like when do you want to work on a will? It's not really something people want to do.
no, not your favorite activity.
No, and so we're going to go for that. And so I totally agree. And it's not a lot. It's an afternoon. And it's not costing us anything. It's just costing time. And so sometimes it's not even money. It could be your time, right?
But the key, the absolute key, is you thought about doing something beyond yourselves.
Yes.
And that's the whole thought process, the whole mindset, that it isn't just about you. It's about what can we do that's going to add value to somebody else's. And obviously, at the end of the afternoon, they'll have a new will, which they will greatly appreciate, but you'll
Yes.
go home with a skip in your step.
Yes, we will. And
Yes.
if you have any ideas out there in the podcast audience, please put a comment in. Like
Okay.
I just gave my example of how we're doing it. And you know, if you're a viewer in the audience and you too, Nancy, if you have any other ideas, let's create a list of ideas that we
Right.
can actually do and take into our own communities based on this little podcast we're having, and maybe we can affect some positive change and some positive give backs.
Well, I'll find the link, but a good friend of mine told me about her daughter's father-in-law um, had a brother who they were in the war, but the brother was killed,
Hmm.
and nobody's talked about the brother.
Hmm.
Because a lot of veterans don't want to talk about their war experience.
Yeah.
So not only was it a terrible experience, but he lost his brother and nobody talked about it. Well, somehow somebody found, anyway, it's gone on to the local radio or the local TV station. And now they're going to have a special celebration for
Oh,
this.
that's awesome. Yeah, and I know that for the Vietnam War vets, I know they're doing some special things because they were not welcomed back
No,
as anything, but it was actually a negative experience for them when they came back. And so there's a lot we can do for the vets and for there's so many causes, especially now with the government shutdown. I
oh,
was at a round table this morning with founders of businesses, and one of the women there is pulling together a food drive for the
super,
children that you know, the parents are, for whatever reason, they're not getting their food stamps or their SNAP or anything. So
terrible.
we're starting to pull together. This month we're doing food. Next month we're going to do mittens and hats. And again, this isn't, I mean, you know, I'm so happy that some women can give those big chunks of money, like the 80 million and others, but sometimes it's
Just a
little,
little thing, right?
little thing. Right, right.
I, I,
Awesome.
I, I heard a comment a week or so ago. Somebody said, if you see somebody that doesn't have a smile, give them one of yours.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, how simple is that?
That is a great one. I love that. This is an awesome podcast. Oh, Nancy, I love it. You're giving me chills up and down my spine. Okay, so how do you define success for an accomplished woman in 2025? Has the definition changed since you began your journey?
That's a pretty powerful question, and I did some soul searching. And this morning I had a Zoom with a bunch of women, actually one from Beirut, one from Florida, two from Western Canada, and one from Toronto, talking about women's age of integrity.
Oh.
And it's all, and I said that you had asked me this question, what is an accomplished woman? And I thought an accomplished woman today is somebody who goes beyond, because you and I kind of are parallel in terms of our age and our
I
aspirations.
know.
And
I'm so happy to meet you. It's so wonderful to have a kindred spirit. And I vibe with you, girl. I don't totally vibe with you.
exactly. But what I thought was we spent a lot of time just getting to the point of arrival. So we've arrived. And I'm thinking of all these women who are on powerful boards and they get on the board and it's like they're on a board. Okay, well, you're on the board. Now what? What are you going to do now that you have a seat at the table to
Yeah.
make the world a better place? And that takes courage. You know, that's back to Marion Budd's How We Learn to Be Brave. And women often don't want to carve out a new path. But that's a huge opportunity. Now you're in a powerful role. You are an accomplished woman, but is there an opportunity to do more? And it's no different than what you're doing going to the vets and doing wills next Tuesday. Like
Wow.
do something more to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I think that sitting on a corporate board and I agree with you, women are getting on those boards. I don't know if you work at all or no, Irene Natividad at the Global
Yes.
Summit.
Yep.
Her big passion has been women on corporate boards for a long, long time. And we're starting to see it come around. And but you bring up a point. It's like once you get there and you look around the room and to not be intimidated, but now that you're there, get some agency and make it your
Keep going.
yeah.
They used to
Oh,
say, go big or go home. I say, go
yeah.
big and keep going.
Oh, that's very encouraging. So you often talk about aligning health and wealth and self-worth, which are three I hear the health and wealth, but I don't hear the self-worth bit. And that's unique to you. I believe that's something that is special for Nancy. And what's the most common disconnect that you see among high achieving women? And how do you help them restore that balance of health, wealth, and self-worth?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you own your health, like own yourself as your number one asset. And if you own your health and you kind of like, especially in the US, you can't afford to be sick. You cannot afford to be sick. And so, what do I need to do in order to stay as healthy as I possibly can? And don't wait for something to happen. Really, like be proactive. You're proactive when it comes to your kids, be proactive as it pertains to you. Same thing with your wealth. Like work with a wealth advisor who will make sure that you've got a total plan in place and review that regularly. Make sure that you've got a total package. And once you've got those things in order, then you've got a whole level of confidence. Like you really feel great about yourself. I mean, your self-worth is enhanced because you feel, wow, I've got it together. I can't be any healthier than I am already. I know something could happen, but if it does happen, I've anticipated something and I'm protected.
Right,
So, I don't have to draw down my 401k to meet my expenses, whatever.
right.
And same thing with your wealth. And again, none of us gets out of here alive. Nobody knows when that, they will say, just in case something is going to happen. Well, guess what? Something will happen. So anticipate what that might be and be prepared, and never have it be the day after when you have regrets.
Right. So I have an off the charted question for you about the self-worth. I remember, we grew up we were around during the yuppies and
Yep.
the 80s and the 90s when, everyone was gathering material things. And they would say the person who dies with the most toys wins. Do you remember
No.
that? And but that's definite. Then I see you put in self-worth as a third like
Key
important
point, right.
of your three.
Mhm.
So what if you have been chasing the person who dies with the most toys wins? And you have you ever met someone like that and you're
Yeah.
working with them on their life and their wealth plan?
I worked with a couple, and that was really interesting because Mr. was a lawyer that refuses to have a will. And they were going on a big cruise. So I had to spend a lot of time working on that. I thought, and you don't like to really challenge people. On the other hand, sometimes you have to challenge them. So
Mhm.
I said, I have a lot of respect for you and all the things that you do and all the value you add to other people's lives. But I am really disappointed in the fact that you're not going to get a will before you go on this big trip. So anyway, I finally convinced him. His wife was delighted, but they had no kids. So
Okay.
then the conversation was, which was really interesting. Well, what happens if she dies first? Is he going to honor where she wants to direct her philanthropic dollars? And he said, well, I'm not sure I remember what that. So again, we get into that whole conversation. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of what you're talking about. But I think if somebody dies and it's the day after and everything has been looked after exceptionally well, there's nothing better. We have a friend who passed away 6 months ago, I guess, and two families. And now the spouse, it was a man who died, and now the spouse is left. And there were two kids from his first family. She had one of her own and now a granddaughter. And she will probably live for another 30 years. They weren't clients of mine. I wasn't an advisor and it wasn't even asked for advice. But it's just a tragedy to see how now people are waiting for her to die. You never want that.
No.
There should have been monies that had been passed along
Yeah.
when Mr. passed on. And then, of course, I've got to live my life. And, you're definitely in the will when I pass on. So those are all the sorts of things that you can think about when you work with a trusted wealth advisor. Really think about the what ifs. You don't want
Right.
people to be upset.
Well, thank you for taking that difficult question because, it's important that people, think about those things. So, looking ahead, what's your boldest vision for women worth and wellness? And how do you see the movement evolving into the next few years?
My boldest vision is that some financial organization will buy me and the brand and let me train their advisors to do all the things that I do. I mean, I love doing what I'm doing, but the best thing that could happen for me is so many other people were giving. I mean, that you have to be careful who you take advice from because
Mhm,
sometimes you take advice from the wrong people.
mhm,
And it's so powerful to help people live their lives well. And
mhm,
that wealth advisor has that power.
mhm.
So there's nothing that I would love more than to be in a situation where I could transition this along to another. And I think a wealth organization is the ideal one. A health organization isn't going to focus on wealth, but
No.
a wealth organization can very easily focus on health, knowing
Oh,
that health is really the priority.
well, that sounds like an important next step, and I look forward to seeing you make that a reality. Because
You'll be coming to the ribbon cutting when I
absolutely, we'll pop the champagne bottle.
we will. We
Happen.
definitely will.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, any last words before we shut down the podcast for this afternoon?
Just stay vertical and keep smiling and know that you are the number one asset and look after yourself exceptionally well. And don't feel badly about doing it. Know that you are worthy.
Nancy, you are a pleasure. And I look forward to having you back on the podcast in the next 12 or 18 months to see how you
Anytime.
stand out. So hang on, I'm gonna get some details from you. But with that, everyone, it was wonderful seeing you all. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and go ahead and leave a comment on how you like to give back.